liability on the Winnebago reservation. Is that yours, Joy?
Did you receive the summary in your packets?
Air quality, that
Did
what
you
it is?
receive the summary in your packets?
Resolution?
Did you have the summary too, or no?
Didn't see it.
We had sent that along to be included with the resolution. It's a new practice our office is trying to do to, help facilitate the resolution process. And so with that, I'll share it with you today, and then we'll get it forward to each of you, so you have a format of your record. That's something we were trying to do. The title of the project is the FY 2019 EPA Protecting Tribal Air Quality on the Winnebago Reservation. We're requesting $80,000. There's no match. It's EPA Tribal Air Guidance Protecting Tribal Air Quality. And it will be for a one-year period beginning October 1 of this year through September 30th of next year. It's eligible to tribes. It will provide one staffing position for an air quality specialist, and that person is to be determined. The program contact person is Joe Painter, and the purpose of the grant is to improve the tribe's capacity to fully address air quality through training, monitoring, prevention, education, and outreach of short-term activities. So, and then we have some other outputs that are a part of that. I'll give that to you and if you have any other questions. But similar to the grant that we had in the past, we spent about 4 or 5 months negotiating with EPA and we were able to finish that up on Monday of last week.
Mr. Chair, I'll move it. Resolution number 18 dash
137, 18-137.
137.
Second.
This is protecting tribal air quality proposal, and October 1, 2018, with an end date of September 30th, 2019. Requesting funding support totaling $79,998 with a proposed work plan and no matching funds, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Amend motion second to approve resolution 18-137. Discussion?
Who's second?
Any objections? No objections, motion passed 7-0-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Old business, September 18, 2018, meeting with U.S. Attorney. That's travel request.
Move it.
Been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Is there an agenda that they're gonna, what they're gonna
I
discuss?
haven't seen anything
Oh.
other than this email that came through. Any further discussion? Any objections?
I got a comment. For the travel membership, we used to meet quarterly with the U.S. Attorney's Office out of Omaha. We'd either go down there or they'd come up here. But also they update us on some of the cases that have been into the court system. There's no information given on cases that are pending. But also we did ask for assistance with this meth as far as providing training, not only for our tribal police officers, but also for the surrounding, like Thurston County Highway Patrol, so we can all be on the same page when we continue this battle against meth. And so we need all the resources that we can gather to do something about this thing. So that's why we're setting up a meeting. The chairman also requested U.S. Attorney Director Joe Kelly if they would have set up a conference, for a multi-jurisdictional conference, to go over some of these issues that we have. You know, you read in a paper where a chase starts in Sioux City, Iowa, goes into Dakota County, South Sioux, Dakota City, all the way down the line. and then they arrest them down here in Winnebago. But there was a lot of times, there was, before, make sure that once that happens, that, we know who has jurisdiction when we do, make that arrest, whether it be federal, highway patrol, tribal, or, Dakota or Thurston County.
Any further discussion or comment? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 7-0. Tribal council items. Police review board update.
I put that on there, but it looks like there isn't anybody. Lily and Wiggs, and then I think Ronnie was supposed to be here too. What? Can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me? Yours on? Oh, okay.
Is that better? No? I don't want to use Tories. I put that on the tribal council agenda for the police review board. We was going over some things the other night. We had a meeting over there, and they wanted to broaden their scope of work. There's some different items that they want to go into as far as to try to help out with the police department and to make it a little bit easier so things kind of flow, not only just complaints but other things. So I was kind of hoping that Ronnie was going to be here. He could kind of talk it up for them also, but maybe there's something, if you want to elaborate to that, Wiggs or Lily. You're gonna have to talk into the mic.
What we were talking about was having a community forum once a month. Also doing, just a community forum once a month, and just being more involved with not just the complaint part, but also being able to have a little bit more leeway with what we do with the community police review.
There's some of the things that they're talking about are some of looking at some of the code revisions, just different ones that I know we passed a few a while back, but there's the code is one area that needs to be updated. There's a lot of new things that are coming out that doesn't pertain to the code, and so when it comes down to prosecuting people and trying to get these things pushed forward, then there's kind of a big gap in there. And so some of the comments that the police chief made was, we were asking him, what other areas are you needing help in, and that was one of them that he said. Some of the stuff what was made mention in earlier today's meeting was with the kind of the traffic enforcement, those kind of things. And so kind of looking at what else he needs to put in there and then put it together and then bring it to the table, but kind of using that as another avenue of trying to fix up law enforcement and make it a little bit better here in the community. So we'll probably end up having to meet again and then go over some lists of things that we think that we want to try to get into. We really have to watch where we step with that, because a lot of times somebody from the community will will write a written statement, and that's still going pending in court. So we don't want to try to come in as the police review board and try to step in front of that when they haven't been proven innocent are guilty. So we kind of wait, and that's one of the processes that seems to kind of take a long time. You know, some of these things that we're dealing with happened a month ago. You know, but they're different people saying different things about this officer, that officer, those kind of things. And then not only that, but the system. So we want to be able to kind of broaden our scope of work, basically. You know, and we was asking for the council's approval of, and discussion and thoughts and feelings about what the rest of the council thought about that. You know, because if we're able to do that, then we could maybe speed things up a little bit quicker, so people can get on with their lives. So, but that's all I have. I don't know if Barbara, do you have anything?
No, that pretty much covered it. This is to do the community forums and just to be more public and let people be more comfortable with presenting their concerns to the board for them.
Anything?
Good.
Is there any, plan or plans by the, police department to become more involved with the children in town? When Dave Menser was here, he used to give out like tickets to games for the kids, and they really enjoyed that. You know, like to the baseball team up Sioux City.
Kind of more like public relations with them.
Yes.
I don't know. I kind of think so, but I don't want to speak for. I think that's Jason there. Is that you picking up? Yeah. Maybe that's a question for him. He's asking about your PR relationship.
As of right now, the only thing we really do for our youth right now is provide game week meals for our volleyball team and football team. That's what we do right now.
Nothing for them.
For everybody else, you know, we just ordered a bunch of some pencils on bullying and bookmarkers on bullying. We plan on making appearances in the school once we get all those supplies in. That's our first step, but we have plans on obtaining resources for the near future. It's all about having resources to do stuff like that.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They mentioned how, they took that school position away, and that was.
Oh yeah. That's another one of the things that the school resource officer, that position was taken away, and that basically, for those of you that might not be that understand, that is basically it was a police officer that was in the school during the school. That's one of the struggles that he's having, and then it's kind of way over Jason's head there, but that's one of the things we want to try to get back into is maybe possibly looking at, you know, what was the results when there was a police officer in the school, you know, versus there is none, and kind of weigh those back and forth to see what's going on about that. But and that's some of the stuff that we get into is that when something goes on around town, a lot of times the public doesn't know about a lot of the stuff that actually takes place in town. Try not to broadcast it out there or anything because we don't want to get any copycats or anything. But there are some scenarios that we ran up there, and within about 3 days after that, we actually pulled, had a person bring something to school that didn't belong there. And you see it all over the news, but those are kind of the things that we hope that never happens here in Winnebago. And that it goes along with a lot of our other buildings too, you know. At any point, somebody could get really frustrated or angry and upset and do something that, you know, and how we are, we're all supposed to be close and all that, so those are some of the stuff that we also wanted to try to get into, so go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I attended a domestic violence consultation in Sioux Falls, and I met a lady from the Department of Justice, and she said the Winnebago tribe is eligible for a grant to update our codes. So I'll give you that contact person. You could probably follow up on that. You know, as far as the code goes, we don't have anything updated as far as meth, and then also the most that we can sentence anybody is 1 year for any crime. So we need to update those codes.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Isaac. Okay, number 2. Tori, travel request.
I put the notice on the agenda. I received a letter from the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development, and I got notice that I was a recipient of the 40 Under 40 award. And so I'd like to read this letter to the table and membership. Dear Victoria, the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development is honored to notify you that you have been selected as a recipient of our prestigious Native American 40 Under 40 award. As you may know, this special award was created 10 years ago to acknowledge those emerging Native American, Alaska Native, and First Nation citizens between 18 and 39 years of age who have demonstrated leadership, initiative, and dedication to achieve significant contributions to Native communities throughout North America. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the National Center, we are proud to present you with this award. You are a true embodiment of what our organization stands for and a shining example of the economic future and advancement of Indian country. The awards will be formally presented at the Native American 40 Under 40 and Scholarship Awards Dinner on Tuesday, October 30th. The awards dinner will be part of the Native American 40 Under 40 10th anniversary celebration, an exciting 2-day multifaceted event at the River Spirit Casino Resort in Tulsa, Oklahoma that will begin on October 29th. The celebration will also include our next Native Edge Institute, which is a 1-day training session focused on procurement. Additional information will arrive in the next few weeks. In the meantime, we will have a conference call on September 6th for which you will be receiving an invitation. We would also welcome your feedback through a brief survey for award winners, which can be found by clicking here. Please note that the awards are under strict media and social media embargo until they are officially announced by the National Center at a later date. You will be receiving a media kit with additional information soon, and we hope to work with you to maximize this great news in your community, your business, or professional affiliation, and your tribe. Please RSVP by October 12th, 2018 to NCIED's Executive Assistant. Again, congratulations on your well-deserved recognition, and I look forward to honoring you in October. Chris James, President and CEO. So I shared this information with Garen, and then we had to keep it a secret until they allowed us to share the information. And then last week sometime, the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development released a press release. So then after that, it was kind of out there. And so I just wanted to ask the table if they would be willing to send me to get this award that I received on behalf of the work that I've done for the tribe. And in the past 3 years, the table has been very supportive and delegated me to do a lot of the things in regards to the healthcare in the hospital. In that time, I've served as the chairman's proxy for the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board. Out of that body, I became the vice chair of the National Indian Health Board. I sit on the Medicare and Medicaid Policy Reform Committee to CMS. I sit on the Tribal Technical Advisory Group to CMS. I'm on the SAMHSA TTAG, and so what the Winnebago tribe did in the past several years was just really begin to build capacity and become involved and voice what we needed here in Winnebago. Most recently, I was appointed the Health and Human Services Secretary, Tribal Advisory Committee Delegate, and that's they call it the STAC. And I'm the at-large member, which means I don't just represent the Great Plains, I'm the representative for the whole United States. So I guess, appreciate the table giving me these opportunities to represent the tribe, to learn, and to bring that back here so that we can make the 12 Clans Unity Hospital the best healthcare facility in Winnebago and Indian country. So that's what this is about.
Move it.
Second.
Motion to, well, first of all, congratulations on receiving that award. You know,
Thank you.
also as the work that you do, but also to have somebody from the Winnebago tribe, be at the table and those policies are being made, and then have an input from what is happening here in the Great Plains. So it's make that motion to go ahead and approve travel for the awards, 40th anniversary awards banquet, 10th anniversary celebration.
Been a motion, second. Any discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed, 7-0-0.
Thank you, council.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Number 3, Thelma? Thelma, just for your information, I had Teresa hand this out, and I know there was another packet, but she didn't make copies of it. So you'll have to give an oral presentation on it.
Okay. Okay, is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, my name is Thelma Whitewater, and I had written a complaint, and this was on Brian Chamberlain to be removed from the eligible voters list and removed as an eligible candidate for tribal council. I have provided proof that Brian has continued residence since 2014 to present. He pays taxes on his residence and still occupies this residence. He should not have been allowed to be on the voters list. It is not fair or right for this to happen. We have other tribal members who want to vote but can't because they live off the reservation, let alone run for council. I have attached the tribal code on perjury as documentation that if this is allowed, the tribal council has knowledge of it, Brian Chamberlain, that he lives off the reservation, and he was able to get on the voters list and run for council. So, the qualifications of candidates is to reside within the reservation for 6 consecutive months immediately preceding the date of election. So that was my written complaint, and my challenge was since only the draft of the voting list was approved and the final voting list was not approved. When I looked through your minutes, I only seen the final draft as being approved. There was nothing on the final. So to me, it's like the challenge of the eligible voters list should still be active. So it also states that the tribal council shall make the final decision on the voters list challenge. So that's you guys. So the Winnebago Tribal Code, Title 5, Article 204 states, candidate for the tribal council shall be a bona fide resident of the Winnebago Reservation of Nebraska. A bona fide resident shall be interpreted to mean 6 consecutive months period immediately preceding the regular election and as further defined in section 5-201 of this article. Now let me reiterate. Bona fide. Bona fide is defined as genuine, real, sincerely, without the intention to deceive. And Brian is deceiving us all, so he is not a bona fide resident. Title 5-204, number 2, Qualifications of Candidates. The tribal council shall be the sole judge of the qualifications of its own members, as defined in the bylaws, Article 2, Section 1. The decision of a tribal council on the eligibility of candidates shall be final. I provided you with a copy from the Dakota City Assessor's Office as proof of his residency. So he and Lance they do have a house here in Winnebago, but they only use that to say that they live in Winnebago when they actually live off the reservation. Now, if they were concerned with the tribe and want to be on council or voting, then they would actually live here in Winnebago and nowhere else. This is just a front that they use to say that they live here. Brian resides and has a post office box in Dakota City, Nebraska. His residence is at 302 South 18th Street. He has lived there from 2014 to present. He pays, like I said, he pays taxes on his home, and everybody knows he lives off the reservation. So now if you approve for him to run for tribal council and he gets voted in, how can he maintain his home for the years while on tribal council? Because tribal council members have to reside on a reservation throughout their term. So in conclusion, now if the tribal council approves for Brian to be a candidate with the proof of residency and the tribal code's violation that I presented, then the grounds is for perjury, because Brian is not a qualified candidate for the Winnebago Tribal Council. You then set precedents for others to follow the same, and that opens it up for all other off-reservation tribal members to follow suit. I know there are many others who agree with my complaint and challenge. So my last word is, you do for one, you do for everyone else. So, and I don't want to leave this table until I hear a decision on this. I heard that this was done twice before. So, if it's been twice before and this is the third one, so there must be some something to it then. And if it wasn't, there would have been no reports on this.
Okay, Sheila, I'll have your response to that.
Okay, well, as far as
Yeah,
the,
get up to a mic somewhere.
oh, okay.
Right here would work.
And really, it's a tribal council to make the decision. It isn't them, the legal council. It has nothing to do with that in the tribal codes. It's up to you guys. It ain't up to her.
Yeah.
So
we
that's
realize
why I'm
that.
bringing it to you.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that as well. It's not my choice to determine if somebody gets on as a candidate. It's not in the code, it's not what I do, so I agree with you. There were a couple of issues. I know I had spoken with you just briefly and told you to come to the council last week. And at that point, I think I misunderstood because you never gave me any names or any, what it was about. And it was more, what you had addressed with me was just that somebody shouldn't be on the eligible voters list and be a candidate. And I think that the language in the code allows that, but your issue is now different. And I saw your complaint this morning finally.
Yeah, the one I called you in about was on a different person that was
Okay.
on there. It wasn't this one.
Okay, so jumping back to this, a couple of thoughts. I did see the meeting minutes from the June 11th meeting. I'm going back to the eligible voters list, for starters. The council that day went through page by page, last year's voters list and made changes to it, so that happened. And then there was an approved draft, and that's what the minutes say, a draft, voters list to be posted for and then 5 days, and then that's when the complaints about who's on it or, should have been brought. She's arguing that, she's arguing that that time period is still open because the council didn't approve a voters list. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, because my memory might not be 100% on this, but I thought that the motion to approve that voters list on the 11th, that it would be approved if there were no challenges in 5 days, or that it would be final if there were no challenges in 5 days. And then if you look at and it does say that if there are challenges, the council does have the final say on what those are. And then it just says a final and irrevocable eligible voters list shall be posted by the tribal council no later than the last Friday in June. And the June 25th meeting, as I recall, the issue was brought up and no action was taken, which leads me to believe, and again, somebody at the table can correct me, because I wasn't at the June 25th meeting, but that because no action was taken on that, because there were no challenges, that the list was considered final based on the motion that was made on June 11th. The problem that we run into is that's not what the minutes say. The minutes just say that the draft was approved. So I don't know if anyone remembers what happened that day, but that's kinda how I remembered it. You know, again, my memory isn't 100% on that. But it also says that the final voters list shall be posted by the tribal council. It doesn't say a final voters list has to be approved, that you have to do 2 approvals if you don't need to. You know, obviously if there's challenges, then you're gonna have to take somebody off the list, or, that's usually what the challenge is about, is somebody that's on the list. And then you'd have to approve the new list. So I don't know if anyone here remembers that.
Okay, I have a question for you, Sheila.
Okay.
Okay, if, the council looked at the draft voters list,
Mm-hmm.
and then, leave at the table, they said that to come back for a final voters list, based upon the draft and the, additions and deletions.
If that was said, see, that's not in the minutes either, and
Yeah.
it would be helpful if,
Well,
I could listen to the meeting again or something.
Well, we look
Get a
at the
transcript.
patterns for previous years, that has been the process.
Okay. Because then I just wonder when it was brought up at the June 25th meeting, why no one did anything.
Maybe because it wasn't presented.
Because it was on, let's see.
Well, it was approved because there were no complaints filed, is my understanding. No one came in and complained between that 5-day period of somebody that shouldn't be on there. Do I understand that right?
That was kind of my impression on it, and then the June 25th meeting, which wasn't it, just says, the deadline was on June 18th for challenge the eligible voters list. There were no challenges to the 2018 eligible voters list. No further action taken. So I don't know if that means somebody came here and talked about it, or it was just on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would understand that as no action was taken because the final list was in its form as of such of June 11th, and there were no. The other thing, the tribal council approves an election schedule, and so that's what also appears in the paper and throughout the community that says, this is the day we post it by, this is the how many days that you have to come in and challenge, and this is the day that, and I don't know exactly what date that was,
June
but
25th, it says challenges to eligible voters list approved, election board officially appointed, that's on June 25th.
so what's the date that you would have had to challenge the list?
It's 5 days from when it was posted.
So it says June 11th.
Right, so.
So
16th.
by June 16th, you would have had to submit this form, Thelma, but you've only taken issue of it as of recently. So to me, based on Sheila's memo that she provided to the tribal council, it's a valid concern if you would have had it submitted by
But aren't you guys supposed
the
to?
15th
But
or
aren't you guys
16th.
supposed to, approve the final list? There was no final list approved, there was only the draft. The draft ain't telling you nothing, has to be the final one approved.
It was the final without objection,
No, it
and
wasn't in your minutes, so
nobody
it
came
wasn't
to
done.
object.
If it's not documented in your minutes, it was not done.
Well, your letter's late, and
It
you
doesn't
missed the
matter, you
deadline.
guys didn't
It doesn't
approve it.
matter that said draft on it. You missed the
No.
deadline.
No, you guys didn't approve the final list.
Well, I guess we have to agree to disagree because you missed the
Well,
deadline,
I'm
Thelma.
here
With
for this,
respect, you
for
missed the
this.
deadline.
It doesn't matter, he does not live here, so this needs to be addressed.
According to who, he doesn't live here? To
I
you?
gave you documents, did you guys not get them where he lives, his
This
residence?
gentleman, this candidate met the requirements to,
How do you know?
because
Are you living with him too, do you
it
know?
was submitted to our
You don't know
CEO's
that
office
either.
One at a
and
time.
our
Okay, Sheila
people
has
reviewed
the
it.
floor here.
Okay, and as far as that, so, again, I wasn't in the office when he submitted the notice of intent, and I think it would be useful for you to hear from both parties. I don't know what was looked at to approve his notice of intent. You know, I don't know what information he has to show that he does live here. you know, she did definitely provide stuff that he has a home outside the reservation. But he maybe should be allowed to present, or you should at least be looking at, you know, his notice of intent and what documentation he turned in with it. And I have not seen that either, so I don't know.
Because for voting, you know, it's really important. If you're really that concerned for your own tribe, you should be living here with us. Why would you want another home off somewhere else? You're concerned, live here with us. Because it's pretty fishy for me to say you live up there and then you got a mailbox or you got another house here but you don't live in it. Only when it's convenient to voting, then you move back.
I was also not part of, apparently he's been challenged before.
Twice, I heard.
You know, I was not part of any of those challenges, but they've been defeated every time, and I don't know what the reasoning is. You know, when they are defeated, what is the reasoning? You know, what was the vote? I don't have that information, and I don't know if anyone, some of the council members probably have it. What?
So what is the rationale for bringing that up?
Just that he must have presented the same things, and if it's the same rationale, I mean, I'm just wondering.
No,
if
it was a
keeps getting
different
brought up, he
council.
must be using the same rationale
It was a
as to why he
different
should be
council.
on the list, or his notice of intent should be approved. But I don't, you know, I don't have that. You know, I don't have what he turned in. At any of the times he's run, because I know he's run more than once, in the past couple of years.
So I want the tribal council to vote on it.
The tribal council doesn't approve the letters of intent. That is done in the CEO's office.
That's too, I just read this to you. Do I gotta read it again?
No, I'm just telling you,
No,
we
tribal
don't.
council has the final word on this.
In my previous experience, the council members would look at each member, you guys would take a day off and look at the list. Did that happen? Is this the list from last year? Because you guys just approved the same list? You're supposed, that's your
Okay,
responsibility.
Tiffany, you had your hand up.
So, whose job is it to make sure that the eligible voters list is done? And why is there only a draft? Where's the final list?
That's done with the CEO secretary, our administrative assistant.
And enrollment.
Enrollment, then the CEO secretary.
So then,
Well, I did the list, and it was finished. There was a final draft, we sat here and we went over every single page. We go over the draft.
We went through it.
You weren't at that meeting.
Yeah.
We went over the
Okay.
list. You don't remember now?
Say, Kenny? Sharon?
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me stand up and talk. And I guess my question is, when did you move? You know, everybody knows that there is a house, there's never been any trying to cover it because you can't. But the reason why it was purchased is nobody's business but his and mine. It has to do with my children. Now, do you guys wanna drag my children in here and go through that? So she's trying to prove something that it's always been there. This has been brought up, somebody brought in a picture, somebody brought, yeah. But my children bought that home. You know how? It's nobody's business, really, but do you really wanna know? Because they're enrolled in Wisconsin. They're adult children of mine, and I shouldn't even say children anymore. But they own that house. And what does it matter? When he lives over here with me, yeah, I'm sleeping with him. And are you too, Chicky?
Are you in our bed with us?
I don't sleep with Shongays.
No.
I sleep with the real men. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel bad for you that you
No,
have
I
to
feel
say
bad
that.
for you.
And you're trying
Okay,
to deal with
let's
it.
stay on the subject. Let's stay on the subject.
Yeah. But I don't have to prove that I live here because she's saying the same thing about me. I've never moved. Neither has he.
She stated her point.
What, Roland?
I said she stated her point, let's move forward.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the tribal council?
Right.
I have a comment.
I can't hear you, Jeannie.
I said I have a comment. Anybody can own a home anywhere they want to. Anywhere. Doesn't mean they live there. It means they own the home. That's all it means. Until you get positive, actual proof, see him living there. See them living there. Just because there's a name on a paper in a courthouse somewhere, or a bank for a mortgage, that don't mean anything. It doesn't, it really doesn't. A lot of people own homes out of country even. Doesn't mean they're a resident of that country. It just means they own a home over there. That's all it means. He could own a home in Sioux City, in Kansas City, in Nevada, in San Francisco, in Hong Kong. Doesn't mean he lives there. It really doesn't.
Oh, there's a lot of us that disagree with that.
Doesn't make you right.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't
We
make
see
you
him,
right.
people see him coming and going early in the morning. My
It's
children
deceitful.
live there. Lying.
Bonafide lives here, no doubt.
Yes, these two anyway.
I just wanted to say something about the, election process. I understand that you guys make up a draft of the, voters list. And then after that voters list is, decided upon, no final decision. Is it there 5 days until the final say-so on that draft? And then you approve the final list? Because I'm a little concerned, and I didn't know it was 5 days. I don't think half of these people even here knew it was 5 days. I got the tribal code right here for elections. I don't see anything in there for 5 days. Isn't this what you're supposed to go by? Isn't this what you use?
5-202, 3C, towards the bottom of the first paragraph, states that the inclusion or omission of a voter's name may be challenged by any physical resident member of the reservation within 5 days following posting.
It's a membership, reservation election board. It's an election board.
It's the whole paragraph is about the election, the eligible voter list being approved by the tribal council.
And that's 5201,
5-202, 3C. It's on the second page of the code. If and it might not be in the right section, I mean, because you're right, the opening paragraph does talk about the election board.
See, that's what I'm saying. You know, half of these people don't realize that there's 5 days to make a challenge. It's unfair to do 5 days. Why don't you do 2 weeks or 3 weeks? So people have a chance to understand and make a challenge, and even get a challenge up together. 5 days is not enough time.
Okay, that's noted.
I can make a change in 5 days. I can make a challenge in 5 days, but I don't know about some other people, how long their challenge is gonna be. That's what I'm saying. Give the people a chance.
Okay, others, any more comments?
But since the whole process, it seems like it's kind of been messed up, you know, and we can point the fingers all over the place and not get anywhere. But I honestly think, to me, knowing that how that list is put out and the process and trying to follow all of that, I think the membership, those of you that do, there's some of you that come in here and bite our heads off every chance you get, but there's others that come around when hot topics hit the table. I think that it's time to kind of start paying a little bit more attention, because with all of these issues that are coming up, it's almost to the point to where it's almost like have a whole recall, do the whole process over. Winnebago needs to get their stuff together, start paying attention. And it seems like the only time that we have people down here is when it's not something real good, you know. And I think that if we was to do that process and to recall the whole thing, then you're gonna have more people vote, because there isn't not even half of Winnebago voted, you know. Looking at the numbers, there's a lot of people that don't vote for whatever reasons it is, but I think if you want change, we gotta be able to get out and vote, you know. That's the only way that you're gonna be able to pick who sits in these seats and what goes on and how the tribe's ran. And that's one of the hardest things to do, is to try to please everybody or try to go along with everything and all that. But you know, the number one thing that I seen here while I was sitting here, the little time that I got here at the table, the number one thing that I seen was our people fighting each other. And that's gonna make ourselves sick, and it's gonna make our children sick coming behind us. And I'm the youngest one here at the table, and I can see that. And I think that sometimes it's not good to say things towards elders or anything, but a lot of our elders, they know certain things, you know, why our tribe is the way it is. And then we have a time where one of our young ones will get called home, and then our community questions it, why it's like that. How come their creator, God, how come they're taking them while they're young? But if you look at it, that's the only time that our people unite, is when something goes on, when death's around. And then you look at our drug problem, how it is, our young people today, they have a hard time coping with death itself, because it's not explained to them. So they go and pick up all these different things, and it spirals into a big thing in our whole community. And so it's not all about who's in charge or who's got power, or you know, who's signing whose checks or anything like that. It's about community, about how we're supposed to be a village. We're getting way away from that. We're feeding more hate than we are feeding good things in our community. And that can be really draining. And sometimes it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to keep going, because there's our community's filled with so much negativity versus positive things. And so I just wanted to say that and share that with you guys. And I know some of you probably don't like me, but that's okay too. And then some of you do, but I just wanted to put that out there, you know. You gotta be careful what you say to these people at this table and how you say it, because I've seen some sickening people stand up and say some sickening things to this table, and then some bad stuff goes on in the community, affects these families, affects the table, all of that. it gets tough to watch our people do this to themselves. But my main point is to start paying attention, start voting, start being active, come and fill these rooms more often, you know, and voice your concerns and your opinions. So I just wanted to say that.
Mr. Chairman and members of the tribal council. My name's Edith Whitewater Cassidy. I'm 4/4 Winnebago. My family left here in 1942 because they were starving and didn't have a home place. I was raised in the city. We made reservation Indians that came through to the city and stopped at my folks' house. We made them welcome, fed them, did all the things that Winnebagos were supposed to do. And I learned my language and culture from my grandparents and my folks. We have always come to the reservation for various harvests and feasts during my childhood. And I learned a lot of what I know from the people down here. I have been working over the years with various members of the tribe to redo the Constitution because the thing is old and it's out of date. At the time when they made that Constitution was in 34 or 39, I can't remember now, but that was before people would even get around, get to Sioux City, get to any place. We were here. I remember my summers here, we'd go to the powwow in a wagon, fill it with hay and put water and stuff, load it up and go to the powwow and stay there for the duration. So getting to Sioux City was not easy, and my parents got up there, I don't know how, but they happened to get 35 cents to cross the toll bridge. I know it's probably me, Kenny, and Frank that's old enough to remember that, but there used to be a toll bridge that you have to pay money. My mom and my brother and I had 35 cents and they walked across that bridge while my dad went with the current and landed down at the South Bottoms. That's the way he got across. We were poor. We didn't have a damn thing. But we made it in Sioux City because there were jobs and there was houses. I grew up in the South Bottoms in what they called Payne's Village. It was just tar paper shacks. But I mean, we loved each other and the family was strong, and so we survived. But like we say, we didn't have a say. We came down to the reservation for ceremonies and for different things like that to visit. Took the bus home. Funerals would come, and Nathaniel McKee we'd give him $1, he'd put gas in, and he'd bring us down as a family, my mother and my brother and I. So, I mean, that's how we managed to survive. And now, it's easy, you just get in the car and zip, you're down here in 25 minutes, so, you know, that's not a hard thing. And so that Constitution needs to be changed. And so that the people who are interested in our tribe and in what goes on down here, you know, could have a say. If they're interested, they will. And there's a few of us left in Sioux City that are concerned and would like to have a say about certain things. So she's not out of the realm of being concerned about this very thing. If one person is allowed to do that, and this happened before, this was a precedent set by Kenny years and years ago, and everyone knew it, but no one said anything. That who knows that there was a 5-day whatever to get in a challenge, you know? So now people know, and so now
you probably will be hearing more about that kind of stuff. So, when this was brought up, I think it's not fair that some people can do the very thing, have a house here, have a house there. Yeah, if you're well off and you got the money, sure, you know, it's good. But if you want to run for a council and you want to do what's right, then you should be here, not up living in Sioux City. You know, I could have a house down here, you know, if I wanted to, but I live in Sioux City. And so, but I am concerned about my tribe. I am concerned that some of them have less than, you know, what they should. They should be having, everybody should be kind of equal. They get their education and they can get a job, then, you know, everybody's good. But there are some who aren't, you know, that able to get by because of who you know or whatever. I always said that you cannot depend on this tribe for a job, because somebody gets hired or promoted and they're dingy, you're fired out the door, no matter how good you are. So this tribe is not stable in that regard, and it's showing at that hospital even now. But then that's another matter. But what I'm saying is that I support Chickie's efforts, that this council had better make a decision. You cannot let this one get by, and now we got another one coming, and that one wants to get by and live both places. That ain't right. And if that's the case, then maybe I wanna run for the council. Maybe I wanna pitch a tent, live here for 6 months. Who knows? You know, I got a lot to offer this tribe if I wanted to. So I just support Chickie and her efforts, and I think this tribal council better kind of grow up and do the task here, but you were elected to do. Make the decisions, talk up when you sit up at this table, speak up, even if you're so, you know, be men and women and lead the tribe. Do what you're supposed to do.
Good evening, all tribal council people and members. I'd like to say a few words.
Can you come up here to the mic so everyone can hear you?
Good evening, tribal council members. This is the first time I got up to speak, and there's only probably a handful of times I came to this tribal council. I just moved down here. Me and my wife and my kids. About 3 years ago, I had a house built down there. I lived in Sioux City all my life. My name is Roger White Beaver. My grandparents on the White Beaver side, the White Beaver. My grandma was a henman. Then on my mom's side, she was Wilma Prophet, and her mom was Jessie Baker. And that henman and Prophet, you don't hear that name no more, you know. And I like to say a few words about. I know you tribal council people. You know, some of you I voted for, and some of you I didn't vote for. But that's besides the point. But we all sit here. We're all supposed to be fair and listen to and respect. On both sides, on the White Beaver side and the Prophet side, I'm Bear Clan. And a long time ago, we were protective of the tribe, you know. And I'm the last one of the White Beavers down here. All my uncles and my dad, and I don't have no brothers no more, you know. So, but I came down here, you know, to live. You know, I kind of try to mind my own business. I have a lot of friends, white people, Native, Black, Mexicans live in Sioux City. All my life, I go up there. God, you know, they really respect me and say, God, you know, nice to see you. But down here, they say, gee, who's that guy? What's he doing down here? You know? But God, you know, if you really know who I am and where I come from, I probably pull more rank on most of you sitting there from where my family comes. But I ain't like that. I ain't gonna do that because I worked all my life, you know, and retired and came down here, you know, in a good way. And just like Edith, you know, maybe I should, you know, have rights to speak, because I earned that. You know, I never worked down here, had a job. I always worked up in Sioux City. All my kids are educated. They don't live here. They live in Iowa State, Missoula, Council Bluffs, all over. And they're never gonna come down here. I want my grandkids to live any place they want in there, like me. I could sell my house and build another one, go live any place I want in there. That's my right. But somebody said, called me back here to Winnebago. You know? I don't know, maybe for a good reason, maybe not for a good reason. But I know one thing, I've been sober and drug-free for 37 years. I've worked for it very, very hard. It's not easy. And I understand how difficult it is for young people. I'll try to, young people, I'll try to say that's good. Give them appreciation and work hard. But it's very important that when we come here, that we have to carry our own selves, help our own selves first before our relatives can help us. In that way. And to me is, I always wanted to say that this tribal voting off the Winnebago, if you're Winnebago, you should be able to vote, no matter if you lived off the Winnebago reservation, or you live in Sioux City, because a lot of people in Sioux City come down here and work, and they go back to Sioux City and South Sioux, and, for years. Me and my sister, then you should have the rights to vote, But you know why? Because you get the same old stale people, all the time. You get some new ideals. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid and say, oh, gee, he's come down here to take my job or something. Well, maybe we have a better ideal. I worked up in Sioux City all my life, worked for the white man. And I was a boss. I had to tell white people what to do, and they didn't like that, but that was my job, And I always stuck up for it. I was bleeding. I've been discriminated against my name. But I thought you can see me, oh, white dude, that's an Indian. I go over there, sure, I'm an Indian. I got brown hair, black hair, big deal. But my job is just as good as your job is, because I earned it, just like my dad did, my uncles did. It's not easy, it's not easy. But what I'm trying to say is that if you're going to do that, you should think about opening up the voting for everybody. That's Winnebago. There's a lot of Winnebagos in the Sioux City are full-blooded. Yeah, good ideals. Some of us are old. Some of us got ourselves our own predicaments. That's our own fault. Maybe we should have did something younger. We can't go up to people blaming all these guys or blaming the next person. That's your choice what you do. I want to tell you, if I didn't quit drinking 37 years ago, I wouldn't be standing here. But look what I did. I got my grandkids, a home, everything, by being sober, being right, doing right. And for some reason, I always feel that up there, my relatives looking after me. No matter what I do, I always, because they know that I'm trying to do right. You do good things instead of come up here complaining. They all say, clean your own backyard up. Keep your own house clean. That means that keep yourself clean, your own family clean before you come up here and start pointing fingers and blaming everybody else. That's your decision. That's all of their decision. Makes me mad. Hey, I might be an old man. I might be 64 years old, but I can still do it now. It makes me mad when people do that, because you know why? Because nobody ever intimidated me. Not the white man or nobody. I come and go when I want to go. I don't like to pull rank on none of you people, but I'm full-blood Winnebago. Bear clan, both sides. I'm protector. I can say what I want to say. I got to prove. Might not be for you, but you go up and ask those people up in Sioux City, white people, anybody up there, they'll tell you, hey, yeah, those white boys are pretty fair people. And that's just the way it is. I know you people have a tough job to do, but you got to remember, do it for everybody. Respect all 12 clans, or respect those 12 clans. That's right, we voted for all you to do that. Not get up and make, oh, well, so look at the paper, 5 days. God, well, it doesn't matter, 5 days, 3 days, 2 hours. Do the right thing. This guy don't live here, he don't live here. How many times has he run for tribal council? Just do the right thing, the fair way for everybody. Maybe I should run for tribal council. I could build a house in Sioux City, build a house in Winnebago, even Macy. But but the idea is, doesn't matter. Just respect everybody. I like. disrespect people, you know, do the right thing. You know, I know I see a lot of conflicts, you know, and this and that, you know, gee, that's all it does. Like I just said, it just kind of brings down the pride, you know. I know we had a bad 3-4 years. We got another 3 more years. We got that Donald Trump as the president. You see what he's doing to our people? Preaching prejudice. You know? Is that what the same issue some of these people are preaching down here? Free prejudice against all people? That's terrible. It's really sick. We shouldn't be like that. Maybe that's why we're struggling. I gotta know what everybody does. You know, when I work, they always tell me, watch these guys when we first hire them. Make sure they do the right job. And tell me if they ain't doing a job and watch them. So they say, Roger, you think that guy's gonna be able to work out? I say, yes, he's a good worker. You know, he's pretty work conscious. All right. You know? But that's how I watch everybody, what they do. On and off the reservation. Here and when you go home. I kinda got a general idea. You know, 64 years, I've been there, seen a lot of common people, I've seen a lot of people, you know, do different things, you know, so, I just wanna express myself, and, you know, Chicky, she's just trying to do the right thing for everybody, you know, we just wanna do the right thing. If you open up the tribe, the voting for everybody, off to Winnebago, on to Winnebago, that's fair for everybody, then he could vote, anybody could vote, because they should have a say-so. That should only be right. Don't disrespect us people that don't live up down here. My dad lived in Sioux City all his life, you know, World War II veteran, Winnebago guy, but could he vote? No. Lived there almost till he's 90 years old. Had a lot of experience, more than anybody you guys would. But you guys treat him like he was nothing. Or he just, you know, lived up Sioux City all his life and raised his family. No big deal. That ain't right. He earned it. So I would like to see some of you go up there and work. I know what some of you people have worked and have done, you know. Hey, I was born last night, I wasn't born yesterday. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, I don't mean to be like that towards you people, but I just kinda like to get up and say a few things, and I know you guys have a tough job, you know, and I kind of want to respect all you guys' decisions, but just make the right decisions and really look at and say, that's maybe, whatever comes, you guys make the right decision. That's what we voted you for, to be fair, and vote, and do the right thing for people. You might not support their efforts, but to just be fair. So that's all I have to say. I'd like to thank you for listening to me, and not take up too much of your time. I know you guys have a lot of hard work, a lot of hard decisions, and it's hard to sit up there, because you can't make everybody happy, I know that. That's just the way it is. You got Democrats and Republicans, Same thing up here, everybody has different issues. But just try to do the right thing and a fair thing to do. So we can get some real good people in here, I think that you should really think about that. Try to open this voting for people on the reservation or reservations, especially if they're enrolled and stuff like that. Because you want to get some good ideas and new ideas. I think that's what you should, really think about, Especially up there, you always have good work ethics and stuff like that. So, anyway, thank you, everybody.
I want to say aho. This is the first time I've ever been to tribal council. I live off the rest, and me and my companion are Winnebago, but we have no right to vote. It does affect us too. The reason why I don't live down here is because of the meth, because of the drinking, because of the crime rate. I lived up at Maxine's. My car was broken into several times. And if I call the cops, they ain't gonna do nothing about it. They'll just say, make a report, list what's missing. I shouldn't have to do that. And that's the reason why I live in the city, is because there's better schools, there's more of an opportunity. Every time I worked for our tribe, I got fucked over. Every time. I worked for the Omaha tribe, they treated me nothing but good. That's why I say I'll always work down there. I'd rather work for their tribe. I wouldn't work for my tribe. And majority of the time, I see all you guys around here town. I'm constantly down here in town. My family's from here. I grew up and was raised here until I was bullied. Then I moved to Homer. Then later on, I moved to the city, and I've stayed in the city. I enjoy the city. Yeah, there's crime up there, but people won't mess with me because I'm Native American. And it is right what she's saying. If he was concerned about it, he should be here. He isn't here. But again, yeah, he has the right to own a house up there, but he should be concerned. If he's concerned enough, he would be down here. I made it a point to come here tonight because I do feel the same way. I should have a right to vote, but I don't because I used to live in Walt Hill. I used to live in the city. I still have no right to say anything. I can't vote or anything. It would be nice to open up the voting, but for running for tribal council, you should have to live here. You should have to reside here. Because if you guys have to live here, why don't they? It's not fair. The only fair thing is to have them live here and to have us be able to vote too. Everyone who lives off the res, it still affects them. Same thing with per cap. They live off the res. They get the per cap too. If we get the per cap, why don't we have the right to vote? We should always have the right to vote, regardless. And the other thing is, not trying to be defensive to anybody, but the tribal council used to be combat vets, only combat vets. Our society was a warrior society. Therefore, only the men were allowed to sit at the table, and they were only combat vets. Our veterans were the only ones allowed to sit at the table and speak for people. And if we could go back to that, then we wouldn't have all these problems we do now. And the other thing is, when we have a death in the community, there's only a handful at this table I ever see there. Unless you're friends with them, unless it affects you, unless it's good for you to show up for your face. And me, myself, doesn't matter if I'm related to them or not, I'm still gonna show up. Just the way I was raised. And even when I lost my David Joe, I seen Isaac there. Isaac, I seen my Choka Jim. I seen Kurt. That's the only ones I seen. Same thing when I lost my grandma, I only seen a handful of you guys. It shouldn't be like that. We're supposed to be a community. But yet, we're all too busy. We're all sitting here bad-mouthing each other. It's not a community anymore. I'm probably one of the youngest ones here. I'm only 26. I just wanted to get up and speak because that's the way I feel. I should be able to vote too, but I'm not. So if you can, at least change that. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. Okay, are there any other comments, questions?
The comment that I have is, when Thelma brings up the draft eligible voters list. There isn't, the council did not make a motion to finalize the final eligible voters list. And there's nothing in here that says if you don't make any action, if you don't have any challenges, and so it's automatic. It doesn't say this in here. And Sheila, some of you around here know that a lot of times when you do contracts, when you're doing something, an official document,
you're gonna put in there something like a final eligible voters list shall be automatic if no challenges are made. That doesn't state that in here. And when you look at contracts, if you know, it'll give you it can give you a time frame of renewing a contract within a month or 2 months, and if the employer or whoever doesn't do anything, then it's automatic for 2 years or whatever. Those are things that are stated in legal documents, and I don't see any of that in here. And previous to that, this council always made a motion for a final eligible voters list, not a draft. What we have here is a draft. So that's all I have to say, thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I have a question. I was just asking Sheila about the June 25th minutes and if there was, so the minutes say the deadline was on June 18th, 2018 for challenge to eligible voters list. There were no challenges to the 2018 eligible voters list, no further action taken. So I wasn't at this meeting and Isaac wasn't at this meeting, but the people present were Frank White, Curtis St. Cyr, Coley Brown, Roland Warner, James Snow, Vincent Bass, Kenny Mallory, Sharon Frenchman, and Lily Snow. And so by reading these minutes, I take it that there was no action taken because the list was in its final form. And I guess my question is, only those that participated in that meeting can speak for why no action was taken, and I guess I want to support my counsel that it was because the final form was without objection. But I just wanted to make that comment because I think we have a couple different issues here. I agree that our tribal members outside the reservation have been asking for a voice for some time. I think 3 years ago there was a constitutional review committee appointed. Several of you sit on that committee. Our treasurer sat on that committee. Some of those that are in the membership tonight sat in that committee. And I don't think we ever had any recommendations come forward, but that was one of the topics that was up for discussion, was amending the Constitution to address some of the concerns and modifications to the Constitution. And so that, I think, is an issue that that committee was charged with bringing forward, and maybe we could call upon them and ask them where they left off in their discussions. But for me, tonight, the issue before us is Ms. Thelma Whitewater's complaint and how we proceed in light of the process that we follow, the schedule, the approved schedule that the tribal council approved at the table and then posted, that this is the dates and the schedule that we're gonna go by. And that's governed by the code that we have here with our general counsel. So I just I want to be fair too, but I think what's happening tonight is not fair, because anybody could come here and say anything, and where's the recourse for the person that is being questioned? And the process in the code is that the CEO's office processes the letters of intent, and that process happened. And I just think that the tribal council has a role and the CEO office has a role, and those things took place. So, thank you, Chairman.
Okay. So she said I wasn't here. It says meeting with the tribal member, that's why I wasn't here.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying you weren't present.
I know, I'm just saying, so they know they can't see what we're reading.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a comment.
In the mic.
No.
Thelma, I heard that same letter that you read tonight, read a couple years ago when Brian ran. I don't remember what was done at that time. But you know, if we can't make a wise decision from the table, or a fair decision from the table, then I would tell you people out in the audience, let you guys vote on who, if he should run or not. On election day, when you go to the polls and you don't think Brian should be on there, don't vote for him. Because obviously, what you hear from us, some of you are gonna like what you hear if we say, take him off. There's a lot of people that are gonna say that that wasn't fair what you did to him. You had plenty of time to challenge it. So I say, leave it up to the people, let them decide. Don't you have confidence in your tribe?
I don't have confidence in you, because it says here the tribal council shall be the sole judge of the qualifications, and it's up to you guys. I'm bringing it to you, so you gotta choose. And like Ida said, you had done that before, the same darn thing. You lived up there in the Dutchy Farm, so you know what we're talking
The
about.
Dutch Reform was down here.
Whatever,
lived out
you
here.
still did it.
I lived down here.
You still did
I
it.
had a home up in Sioux City, yes.
Yeah.
Jenny,
Yeah.
you need to get up to the mic,
Okay.
cause you're being recorded.
Gee, they always say I have a big mouth. Can't they hear me?
Talking about the size.
Yours is- When I called Isaac over, I told him, and I thought he would bring it to the table, but he didn't, so I will. You 9 people, minus Vince, are the final say. You're the only say. Somebody just said it. What you say is the way it is the way it's going to be. That's the way it's always been. I don't know why we're sitting here having this argument. You people have already said the way it's going to be. And that's why we put you there. Not to, when you make a decision, I'll run in here and argue with you. Yeah, I like to bring up points. But this has been decided. That's all you have to say. You know, you've made the decision, so own it. You know, you've owned things of dubious content. This is something that is legitimately in your court to do, is what you have done. Accepted that list. Why reinvent the wheel? Let's hear it.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
I came down here over this issue. I knew it was going to happen. Just kind of because I'm hearing all kinds of rumors about they're gonna pull the whole thing and start it all over again. I've listened and I've heard a lot of things, and yeah, Chicky, it's valid. But yet at the same time, if I'm to look at that, what the Constitution says is that you have to maintain a home on the Winnebago reservation. Nowhere in there does it say you have to live there. To be an eligible voter, you have to live here, but you have to maintain a home here. And I know that you went up and you looked at tax records and stuff, but I'm wondering, did you go down to the Thurston County Assessor's Office also and look up those tax and property issues down there too? Well, myself, I'm running for office because that Constitution is messed up. It does need to be reformed. You know, that's one of the issues that it is. And I myself, you know, I agree with what Jeannie said. It is up to you. It's your ultimate decision, you know, and it sounds like you've made that decision already with the voters list. And it's tough, but I myself, you know, quite frankly, I would like to see him, you know, be able to run, because, you know, if he gets elected, then for me, that opens up the voter registration for off-reservation members of our tribe. They do have a lot to offer, they do have a lot to give. You know, you count them in your numbers on everything. Count their votes too. I don't envy you your decision, but, you know, you guys gotta go by your constitution and your tribal codes. So I kinda agree with Jeannie. Kinda seems like it's already a final solution, so, thank you.
Okay, any more comments? Okay, concerning the eligible voters list, you know, many of us, you know, we've been around here long enough to know that every year they do this. They approve the draft, and it goes back to enrollment, they redo it, and they work with the CEO office. And then they bring it back to the table for a final. Okay, looking at the minutes, and I just looked at the minutes, that wasn't done. The tribal council did not approve the final voters list. Okay, so we're at that point now. And as far as residency is concerned, you know, this has come up, did you say 2 other occasions?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the tribal council at that time must have approved his eligibility to run for tribal council. And taking into account what Jeannie said, is that you know, we can own houses all over the world, and as long as we have a house here, and even if we live in it one day, you know, we're occupying on the reservation. And what Kenny said, you know, come October 2nd, you know, you have an opportunity to determine who's going to be on the tribal council. You know, there's many tribal members, eligible voters, you know, that agree with you, Chicky. And you know, they can make that determination on October 2nd. But, you know, we are a council, and the council, you know, makes that decision with the majority vote. If there's a decision, then, you know, we'll go with that. So, are there any other discussion from the council?
There's a hand up back.
Somebody raised their hand?
I just had one more other question or whatever, but, some people know that there was a candidate on this list, but he wasn't on the voters, eligible voters list, draft eligible voters list. So, whenever you make that decision, are you gonna be covering that one also? And I think all of you know who it is.
know that that's here, I know that the council is supposed to be looking at that also, or someone's supposed to, the election board is supposed to be looking at that. So are you gonna, when are you gonna make that decision on that one? Well, okay,
Let her finish, okay?
no, Eugene Gilpin Jr. is on the candidates list. We had like 41 votes, and then, but on the voters list, he wasn't listed on the draft eligible voters list. So however that happened, you know, that's a grave mistake. And so, 42 votes could have went to somebody, if that was correctly done before it went, before we went to the polls. So I'm asking, and what I heard is that it's gone to the, election committee? No? And so when is that gonna be addressed?
Mr. Chairman, I think the public made their decision on that situation by not voting for him to be one of the top 6.
It doesn't matter, Kenny, he was
What?
on there.
Yeah.
You
don't revive a dead horse, it's over with, it's dead.
Nope.
He didn't make it.
No, there were 41 votes that could have went to someone else, didn't you understand that? You understand there were 41
No,
votes
I
that
don't
shouldn't have went to?
understand any of that. I've only been around here 27 years. I don't understand.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, sorry?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Cece, for asking that question. I'd like to invite Sheila to share the contents of her memo. Today, we got a memo from our general counsel addressing the complaint on that individual you mentioned. And so there was a differentiated between a qualified voter and an eligible voter. And the council got that memo today. I don't know if it's appropriate to share that, but Sheila, could you please explain that?
I don't mind, but I can talk about what I looked at. So if you look at the code in section 5-201, it states any recognized member of the Winnebago tribe 18 years of age and over who has maintained residence within the reservation for a period of 6 months prior to the date of the regular election shall be a qualified voter. So that defines what a qualified voter is. They just have to meet those qualifications. And then if you go to 5-202D, it's just the way the language is written here. It says, except as provided in subsection C above, only those qualified voters whose names appear on the eligible voting list of the reservation shall be entitled to vote in the election. Meaning those are two different things. So if you're a qualified voter and you don't get yourself on the eligible voters list, then you can't vote. But as long as you meet these requirements, and I don't know that this individual that the complaint is about, so I don't know if he meets these requirements or not. As long as they are 18, maintain the residence, they're a qualified voter. And when you look at 5-204, under qualifications of candidate, under A, it just says be 25 years of age and over and a qualified voter. And it doesn't say you have to be on the eligible voters list. And in fact, the way D reads, only those qualified voters that are on the eligible voters list can vote. So they're obviously treating them as two different things. There's a qualified voter, and then because there are people, I know there are some people, one of whom works in my office, that have been here over 6 months, not running for office, but, and they just didn't go turn their name in to get put on the eligible voters list. So they meet the definition of a qualified voter, but they can't vote because they're not on the eligible voters list. So qualified voter and an eligible voter is somebody who's on that list. That's the way I'm reading it.
It's called being registered as a voter, and that's what he should have done to prove that he was eligible for the voters list and eligible to run for council.
You understand what she's saying?
I do understand what she's saying, and I think it makes sense, because I don't know why you would run and not be on the eligible voters list, but I'm just going by what it says. It doesn't make sense, and I think it probably should be amended.
And it's unfortunate
And there's one other provision I wanna bring up, just because it's in here. I don't necessarily agree with the languages that's in the election ordinance, and I do kinda think it needs to be amended. But let's see, I'll tell you what provision I'm looking at. 5-216, paragraph 2. Within that paragraph, it says if the requirements, this is about a notice of intent, so getting your placement on the primary ballot. The chief administrative officer or his designee shall ensure that the notice of intent, along with any applicable fees as set forth in subparagraph C, or a petition is provided in D, meets the requirements of this article. If the requirements of this article are met, the chief administrative officer shall accept the notice of intent, and the person filing said notice shall be declared a candidate for election and shall be so notified. This determination shall be made within 10 days of receipt of the notice of intent. A determination that a notice of intent meets the requirements of this article shall be final and may not be reversed. You know, there's a lot of language in here, you know, now that I've really looked at this code. You know, it would be nice to have an appeal period after the fact, but it doesn't provide for that in this code, the way it's written. You know, I think there should be a appeal period after the primary. I think there should be an appeal period, you know, for these kinds of complaints, and maybe not have this language in here that's real, you know, kind of cuts off the ability to appeal. You know, it may not be reversed. That's what the language says. So.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've exhausted
Yeah, we have.
this conversation. I second Kenny's motion to adjourn.
Did you make that motion, Kenny?
Why can't you guys make a decision now?
Then a motion, second, discussion?
Discussion.
Go.
I feel that, this complaint that's been brought forth, sheds a lot of light on this process and how it was, it kind of, failed us. Whereas some of these this individual that we just talked about, how he got on that election ballot, but here we are talking about it. That by itself is a real issue. It's huge. And we have to deal with it. And this what Thelma's brought forth, and it brought to light that this draft, and that's what it was not finalized by this council. And there was dates, and that process happened. So we need to take time to seriously sit down here and deal with this, and then earn that money that we're getting paid. That's these people's money. And this is a hard thing. But I hear the people speaking, and they want what's fair and equitable across the board. And that falls on us. We all know that whatever we do, it's not going to please everybody, but it has to be dealt with sooner than later, because that's the problem. We're not following through with things, and there's a breakdown. And here we are, we're having these discussions. So I would like to see this rectified and taken care of. And I would like this expedited so that these people are informed on this process, so that we can move on and then take care of this election in a good way. So I want to say that it's important that we all agree to that before we skip on out of here.
Thank you, people, for all that you that stood up and expressed your concern. And it's heartfelt, you know, those that lived off reservation, those that lived here all your life. You know, we go through this every year, and if we don't fix it, you know, we're going to be doing it every 3 years or every year. You know, and that's our responsibility. This table here, that down to the code committee. You know, so I think there needs to be some election reform. You know, and things. It's right here. You know, it's not. And we're so divided as a people, as a community. You know, we're so divided. You know, some good things that were said, you know, and I could take things constructive, you know, and it's a we thing. It's all of us. It's our future of our tribe we're talking about, you know, and the politics, you know, is it's not good sometimes. We just divide each other. You know, I've been a victim of that, being called this and being called that, and for speaking the truth, you know, and then you don't we don't get nowhere with that. And thanks for the elders standing up and voicing their concerns. Now, Chicky has a legitimate concern here, and we have to address that one way or the other. One way or the other. It's defined there that it's up to this table to take care of that. And as I recall, those minutes was just a draft, and I never seen a final myself. It's not in the, don't reflect that in the minutes as well. You know, so it's what it is. And we scabbed up, you know, or somebody scabbed up for us and didn't get that final there, so we can approve of that. So it's a pickle. We're in a pickle here. You know, either you let this person go on and just and let the people decide it, or do we take a position here and that election committee, you know, needs to research these kind of things, because anybody could come in here and say anything. It's based upon the preponderance of evidence, what you can prove. You might know this, but it's what you can prove. So I see both sides, you know, and so I think that reform is very, very important for the future up the road here. It's not up to here, us around this table, to follow somebody wherever he goes or she goes, and where they live. That ain't what our function is here. But whose function is it? Whose job is it? So when it comes to these kind of things, there's got to be a fair way, a fair process, you know. And that's what I want. And these are the hard decisions. It was mentioned about doing this thing over. And there was another gentleman that was brought up here, you know. So we're in a pickle here. So what do? How fair do you want to be? In the end, it's up to the people to decide this. You know, it's up to the people. And I apologize that it went the way it did. And I'm a reflection of that, and I'm sorry, and I apologize to you that we're facing this. It's here, and it shouldn't even be here. We should be down the road here. So to be fair with this person and anybody else that steps in that arena, it's got to be a fair process. And those are someone that's deceiving, you know, there's ramifications for that as well. It's the way it is, you know. So I appreciate your effort, Chicky, and those that stood up and said what you said. You know, these are the hard things. But what do we do, you know? And if that didn't happen, you know, the schedule says there has to be a final list, then what are we breaking that process here at the table? question, you know. So that's what I recall of it. And I remember that that first go round, we sat here, they talked about, you know, mark this one here, no, this one's deceased and down away, you know. And being here before, there was a final that always came. Once that was done, and if it's 5 days or 10 days or whatever, you know, someone had to respond and object to it or whatever. And there's a process in writing, all this stuff. You know, but I don't remember that. You know, and coming down to the final, one more time, and then we say by the table here, this is it. I don't remember that happening. You know, so I just want to be fair as well with everybody, and I don't like to see this, you know, divided. We're divided here. Take a young man back there to tell us these things, and somebody over here saying the same things. You know, looking at our community, our tribe, wondering what's going on here. You know, when the answer's right in front of us. You know, but to each his own. You know, to each his own. And you know, we lost a lot of people, a lot of our relatives. And I think all of us collectively we could do better with one another, you know, these kind of things. That's Ho-Chunks are take care of one another, help one another, love one another. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what they said. You know that. So I don't like to see that. And what the children see or what they hear, you know, they learn that. They pick that up. You know, I believe everybody has something to offer in this tribe. We have strengths. A lot of you in this room here, your clan, you know, your responsibility. You spoke your mind. You're going to be there. You go over there. It's all recognized. And that's how it should be. And I don't see that, you know. And I've been here before, and this is the worst I've seen it, you know. You know, and I like to see that improved. We lost a lot of our elders to our young tribe. Where's this going, you know? Where's this going? We all have who we like, you know, who we want. But you look at it, you know, and you're given an opportunity maybe once. And if you mess that up, then, you know, that's on you. That's on you. So I just want to say a little bit there, and I think we need to make a decision here and not run away from it. You know, and these are the hard decisions we're getting paid for.
Mr. Chairman, that process took place, and Curtis, we did go through that list and do the omissions, and then the list was posted, and then the list was brought back for in its final form without objection. And so on the June 25th meeting, that was the second time that that list was brought back with the omissions from the council after it was posted in the community and in line with the approved election schedule. And so I don't know what is up for discussion. That process was honored by this table. And then the council reviewed that list another time on June 25th. Although I wasn't here, I was here when we did the first exercise. And then based on the code and based on the election schedule, the next exercises took place. And so this table acted on June 25th by not taking further action on that original list that we omitted and honored by adding who had in the meantime brought in their eligible voters, what do you call that, applications? And so all those things took place. So for me, I don't know really what's of question. This table did that.
approved.
Minutes are right here. Don't say that in there.
So why didn't you guys take any action then? If you had any objections, if there was no objections to the list from the community by the approved election schedule, and the tribal council didn't change the list that was generated and posted in the community, why wouldn't that be its final form? And if the council took no further action, it's because it was in its final form. But only you gentlemen can speak for that because you were here that day. And so I guess, where was the motion? Why, maybe Sharon could share that with us. Lily, you were here that day on that meeting.
That's a legal document, so that has to be approved. You can't just go by your draft.
Sharon, you have something?
We brought that list in on that day, like, nobody objected. We put the eligible voters list out, in fact, for 30 days, because it's been a complaint in the past. So it was out in the public for 30 days, it was posted in the wind for 30 days. Nobody contested anything. We brought it that day, and we said nobody contested it. We said, well, if nobody contested it, then it's approved. That was the final list. Now, it was recorded in the minutes, I don't know. But that day, you guys approved it knowingly as the final list.
It's not documented, it wasn't done.
See that thing again.
Make it readily available. Information sharing is what it's called. How can we have 3 officers say it wasn't approved and then have them now say it's approved again?
Okay, just for your information, I'll read the minutes. Highlighted voters list challenge. The deadline was on June 18, 2018 for challenge the eligible voters list. There were no challenges to the 2018 eligible voters list. No further action taken. Okay, that's in the minutes, and I believe Sheila had mentioned it too, is that the tribal council did not take action on approving the final list. It just that there was no action taken. And that's where, I believe that's where the snag is that the tribal council did not approve the final list. And I asked Sheila for options to this. I realized that there is a motion and there was a second, but this is part of the discussion. And so I asked Sheila to provide some information and guidance.
Well, it looks like one of the big questions here, and it isn't about the voter challenges or anything like that, it's really the determination. I think this body needs to determine whether they think there was a final approval of the eligible voting list. You know, decide. And then if there wasn't, you know, one of your options is to do another primary. I mean, it doesn't account for that in this document. This document, you know, the only part in this document that talks about primary elections is if there was election tampering, and that those are specific examples of what those are in here. But it does say that, like if the tribal council can declare the election invalid, hold another election which has to be held within 10 days after the date of the invalidation. And what I'm just a little bit worried about is just that I think it's in the Constitution that the date that your general election has to be. So it'd have to happen between now and then, which is, you have more than 10 days, if that's what you were gonna do. Otherwise, you can, you know, hold the primary again. Let's see. I think that's addressing a general election, but I think that's how would be the best way to do it if you were gonna do it, is to try and hold another primary in 10 days.
Primary before the general?
Yes.
But I think before you do that, you're gonna have to approve that list and then have that special election.
Tori?
I was gonna say, in other instances, when there's no action taken, Mr. Chairman asks the council, what do you wanna do? And if we don't wanna take action on something, it's like a, I don't know, I just, it's like no one wants to, say yes or no. So if there was a donation that somebody didn't want to support and nobody wanted to make the motion, there was no action taken. Or if there was no changes or nothing to do to it, then there was no action taken, that nothing changed. So no action taken means that that list was in its final form as presented by our CEO.
It would still have to be approved though.
This table is basing on that last draft, that draft was the final form. You guys were here that day and you decided no action taken, and I doubt you wanted to create friction with the election, and I doubt you wanted to question. And you didn't yourselves question who was on that eligible voters list. So there was no question of whether it was correct or it was not valid.
I know, but you weren't here, so you should let the other ones talk who was here. And they can
I'm
tell
trying to
us.
pull the information from them so that we can, this is unfair what's happening this evening.
Approved, either way you look at it.
But your objection should have came within those 5 days.
And that's where I'm at with being fair, is that, Thelma, your objection should have came within that 30 days. And then on June 25th, then we would have had your letter here, and then something would have happened with it. But you can't change the rules midstream. That this is really getting
But it's still a
terrible.
botched election.
Lance Morgan's on the list, come on. Put everyone on the list, all 5,000 of us, oh, don't be ridiculous.
So then let's just have another election then.
Yay, one vote.
And then,
Not a good idea.
then you guys, if you don't show up, then can't say nothing about it. I mean, otherwise somebody better order supper, because it's gonna get late. We're going over the same thing over and over. I think we got the people's attention.
Okay, question for legal. If that should happen, what's the process?
Well, I think the way that you get it to fit in the 10-day time frame, you know, because your election calendar is pretty long. You know, you start, I don't know, they start posting it in April or May or something. Would just be to certify the eligible voters list and put the same people on the ballot. You know, unless you think you have time to, how many days
So
do we
what
have
does
till
that mean?
October 2nd?
What does that mean about Gene? That we would add Gene to the list so that he would be on there again?
You're either gonna have to add him to the list or give him his money back. Cause you're taking $50, which says in that constitution, you guys
Yeah.
can't be taking anything over
I mean, you'll have to
50.
decide that. The way I'm interpreting it, I think he can be on there, but
I
that's
know
just
that,
me
but
interpreting it, and I'm
it's
not the one
gotta
who makes that
be a
decision,
gift,
so.
Well, that's why you're legal, that's why we
Right.
listen and see if we
Right,
get
so,
some advice.
I mean, that's just the way I'm reading it based on the language in the code.
Mr.
Is that it
Chairman?
can be on there, but.
I think that this table honored the election code and they honored their duty, and what's happening is because somebody doesn't like the outcome of the primary, and we can't all get who we want on the primary. There's maybe one person I would like to have made the primary, but they didn't. But we can't drag this out and point fingers because somebody doesn't like the outcome of the primary.
It's not that we don't like it, it's botched.
Tori has nothing to do with that.
It's not botched.
Certifiably botched. You had a candidate on there that wasn't even registered. Brian Chamberlain lives in Dakota City. Lance Morgan's on there, he doesn't live here. Come on.
How do you know Brian Chambers lives in
Everybody knows that, 'cause I live in this town too. I send your kids to school here.
Okay, we're kinda getting out of line here.
How do you know?
Okay.
I'll get in your face if I want. Hey, now.
I want her removed.
Because you're lying about
Point
it.
over.
Remove her.
Remove her from this premises. I want her out of here.
Before I go, I just wanna say this. You guys all know that I do live here. And she's standing there.
I didn't say you.
And he sleeps with me every night. What you're trying to say
Okay,
is
Jason.
he doesn't take care of her.
Point of order.
I didn't say you, Sharon.
Okay.
You look at,
They should both have to go.
look at those minutes.
That's all.
You need to look at the minutes of June 11th.
That's what we had here, and there was no official action on approving the list. Right here.
Everyone's heard.
You know, you council people took an oath to uphold
We
the
are.
Constitution. And because you don't know the Constitution, this is what you created amongst the people. So know your Constitution.
I had a motion here.
Well, I can tell you this. If a lot of Brian's friends and relatives were at this meeting today, we wouldn't be siding towards the one side. That's my feeling about it.
Yeah, you're HCI, that's why you're saying that.
I'm not HCI.
Yes, you are.
What even if I
Yes, you
am?
are.
Even if I am?
Yes,
Even
you
if I
are.
am?
Okay,
You make real terrible accusations.
been a motion and second. Are there any more discussions?
I'm not that to people, I didn't say nothing to her. You just did. She said something to me.
Are there any objections to the motion?
Adjourn.
No objections, motion passed 7-0-0. We're adjourned at 7:12 PM. Didn't say anything. Change, Coley, change that vote to 6-1-0.
Are these meetings recorded so that they listen to what the motions, just make sure that it's accurately recorded?
Yeah, it's recorded.
Okay, it might be a good idea to listen to them,
What?
just to make sure that the way the motion's written is what was actually said, you know? I mean, I just think it would be a good idea to just make sure.
It'll play itself out of the polls. It'll play itself out. Gee.
Isaac, can you turn that up?
This happened 4 years ago when Marion Holstein and Brian were running. That same letter was read again. That same letter was read.